Hi everyone, we're back today with another one from my favorite author, Katherine Applegate. So this is the third book in one of my favorite series. The first was The One and Only Ivan, and then we read The One and Only Bob, and now I'm so excited we're going to be reading The One and Only Ruby. Let's get started. Nobody ever listens to the littlest elephant, and around here, the littlest elephant is me. When you're the littlest elephant, even if you very helpfully say, "Hey, I'd better jump in the pond to see if any giant hungry snaggletooth crocodiles might be hiding in there," one of the grown-ups will say, "I think you've had plenty of water play today." And then if you splish-splash the muddy water with your trunk just to be extra sure there aren't actually any giant hungry snaggletooth crocodiles hiding in there because you are that amazingly brave, not that anyone appreciates you, another grown-up will loop her trunk around your tummy and pull you away from the water's edge and say, "Come on, silly Tusky." That's a reel, for instance. Also, when you're the littlest elephant, they call you things like Tusky. I'm going to ask my family not to call me that anymore because I think it's teasing, and teasing is a not okay behavior. And besides, my name is Ruby. My Aunt Akello says it's elephant tradition to call littlest elephants Tusky when their tusks first appear. She says it's like Buttercup or Roo-Roo or Twizzle Trunk or any of the other gazillion nicknames for me, but I don't like Tusky. I don't like it because I have a secret I can't tell the other elephants. My secret is that I hate my tusks. In case you're not an elephant, here's what you need to know about tusks. Tusks are kind of like teeth, which you probably have unless you're an anteater or a turtle or an earthworm. Regular elephant teeth are flat, not pointy, and good for chomping things like grass until it gets nice and smushy. We grow 6 new sets of teeth in our lives, I guess because we use them so much. But nobody cares about those teeth. It's our tusks everyone is interested in, especially humans. Tusks are the white pointy things that extend from the sides of our mouths like big front teeth that forgot to stop growing. They're hard and smooth curved like new moons. Lots of elephants like me, the ones who come from Africa, grow tusks, boys and girls. Elephants use our tusks for all kinds of things. They help with eating and digging and playing and sometimes even fighting. They're so important that when your tusks arrive, elephants hold a special ceremony to celebrate the occasion. Elephants love any excuse for a party. Akello says tusks are a sign you're growing up. She says the ceremony is a way of honoring that passage. On my tusk day, I have to give a speech while the other elephants listen. It's like a birthday party, only without the fun. The reason the grown-ups made me get out of the pond is because it's time for me to practice for my ceremony. But my actual tusk day is 2 whole days from now, so I don't see why I couldn't have had maybe just 5 more minutes of mud fun. Especially since the pond mud is extra gooey this time of year. I'm hiding behind this tree because I don't want to practice, in case you're wondering. I'm not pouting, I'm protesting. Unfortunately, it's hard to hide all of you when you're an elephant. Even a little elephant is big compared to a bug or a squirrel or a kid. Yesterday, I tried hiding behind a different tree when TJ, one of the park veterinarians, wanted to check my new tusks. She found me pretty quick. I need better hiding places. Aunt Akello is heading this way. There are 6 elephants in our little herd, and Aunt Akello is the matriarch, which means she's the boss of us. An elephant matriarch is like a teacher and a counselor and a rescuer and a yeller and a helper and a nudger and a guider all rolled into one. I hope she isn't mad. I really do try to listen to the grown-ups, but every now and then my ears misbehave. Aunt Akello says someday I'll outgrow this stage. Aunt Akello sighs a lot. My Aunt Lahaley, who'd been scratching her back on a nearby tree, lopes over and taps me with her trunk. Aunt Lahaley is my youngest aunt, and she loves mud almost as much as I do. Also, she likes to play oops oopsie, which is when you spray someone with water from your trunk and say oops, and then they get to spray you back twice as long and say oopsie, but only if they want to play the game, because otherwise that is a not okay behavior. An awful lot of things are not okay behaviors. Somebody really ought to make a list. Just for a day, I would like to make all the rules. A good one would be play in the mud as long as you want, even if it's way past your bedtime. You know, Aunt Akello can see you behind that tree, Tusky, Aunt Lahaley says. I don't want to practice for this ceremony, I say. Also, I don't want to celebrate my Tusk Day. Also, please don't call me Tusky. Aunt Lahaley cocks her head. Her right eye is golden and large and always smiley. Her left eye is white and blank and doesn't work anymore. A man at the roadside zoo where she used to live poked it with a stick. But your tusk day is a big deal, she says. She lowers her head so I can see how grand her tusks are. They practically glow in the sunlight, and they're a little bit swirly at the tips, which is a nice touch. I just don't care about my tusk day. Is it because your tusks still hurt, she asks? Because that goes away pretty fast, I promise. They don't hurt anymore, I say. That's not why I don't want to celebrate. I can tell by Aunt LaHaley's expression that she doesn't exactly understand me. I would try to explain, but I don't exactly understand me either. When your tusks start growing at around age 2, it's like the world's biggest toothache. When my tusks first poked out, my 5 aunts had plenty of advice for me. Aunt Masika said, rub the sore spots on a mossy log and count to 53. Aunt LaHaley said, put your head under ice cold water and blow teeny tiny bubbles. Aunt Elodie said, eat a sour apple with at least 2 worms in it. Aunt Zena said, take a nap in the sun, but whatever you do, be sure not to snore. Then there was Aunt Akello's advice. She just looked at me and said, don't think about it. You try having 2 giant pointy teeth pop out of your face and see how long you stop thinking about it. I love my aunts lots, even though sometimes they can be bossy or grumpy or full of weird advice. Lucky for me, I also have 2 uncles. My Uncle Ivan is a gorilla. My Uncle Bob is a dog. Families can be complicated. When I was a baby, I had a mom too. I guess that's true of most babies. I don't have her anymore. I haven't had much luck when it comes to moms. Now, if you haven't read the other stories, the one and only Ivan and the one and only Bob, it's really important that that's like the backstory of how we get to know our sweet little Ruby. And so we do have Ivan and Bob in this story, and so she's recalling, how she got to know them. And I fell in love with Ivan in the first story, and we did get to meet little Ruby in there. And we're going to hear about Stella, if you remember Stella from the one and only Ivan. I don't know where I would be right now without Uncle Ivan and Uncle Bob. Those 2 guys and my Aunt Stella, an old elephant, changed my life forever, especially Aunt Stella, who loved me when I most needed to be loved. The 4 of us met a long time ago at a place called the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade. Aunt Stella and I shared a cage. So did Uncle Ivan and Uncle Bob. Even though Uncle Bob could come and go as he pleased, he slept every night on Uncle Ivan's big warm tummy. If anyone ever asks you if you'd like to live in a cage in a shopping mall, the answer is no. While we were at the mall, we lost Aunt Stella. Uncle Ivan to say that she passed on. Uncle Bob just says she died. But I always say we lost her, because that's how it feels. Like if I just look long enough, I'll find her again. I miss her so much. Sometimes it hurts like 1,000 new tusks all at once. We don't live at the mall anymore. Where Uncle Ivan and I live now has a long name, Wild World Zoological Park and Sanctuary, but everybody just calls it the park, because otherwise there are way too many words. I live in Elephant Odyssey. Ivan lives in Gorilla World. We are next door neighbors. After that come other animal lands. They're separated with fences and walls and ponds and pathways. That way, nobody eats anybody. Uncle Bob lives nearby in a house a few blocks from here. He shares it with our friend Julia and her parents, and Bob's sister Boss, and his nephew Rowdy. Also 2 guinea pigs named Minnie and Moo. Before the park, I lived at the shopping mall, but I was born in Africa. I've had many homes. I've even had many names. Uncle Ivan likes to say that for a little elephant, I'm very well traveled. Then Uncle Bob says, good thing you always have your trunk, Ruby. Uncle Bob's a funny guy. Aunt Akello joins me at my not very good for hiding tree. She's wearing her disappointed face. She has lovely complicated wrinkles near her eyes. Ruby, she said, I know you don't want to practice for your tusk day, but it's important, dear one. Aunt Akello is bigger than my other aunts and older too. Her skin is ridged like the bark of an ancient oak. Here and there her ears are notched, and her right tusk has a chip in it. When she speaks, it sounds like the noise my feet make when I walk on sand, low and swishy. Aunt Akello's voice gets even softer when she's not happy with you. Somehow that makes her even scary, which is a pretty neat trick if you think about it. I sometimes wonder how she got the big chip in her tusk, but I don't want to ask her in case it's a not nice story. I know plenty of not nice stories already. I really don't need it for my tusk day, I say. I kick the tree trunk with my right front foot, gently, because trees are like quiet friends and you have to be kind to them. Have you planned what you're going to say? Aunt Akello asks. I'm growing up, which is a big deal, and I need to be responsible and all that stuff. And yay, I have tusks. I don't look at her because I can feel a lecture on its way, the way the air gets fizzy. The storm is coming. She sighs long and slow. Like I said, Aunt Akello sighs a lot. Have you learned the creed of the herd? An elephant alone is not an elephant, I say, but I don't understand what that means. And just in case you're wondering, I think this whole thing is kind of silly. Another sigh from Aunt Akello. Don't think too hard about the words, she says. Just feel them. But words aren't for feeling, I say. Words are for hearing and saying and maybe singing. Also yelling and whispering and Ruby, Aunt Akello interrupts me. Enough, dear. Sorry, Aunt Akello, I say. My words hang in the air like tired butterflies. I'm waiting for Aunt Akello to remind me about not okay behavior. But after a while, she lifts her head and points toward the hill where the gorillas live. I see Ivan and Bob up there, she says. Why don't you go and spend some time with them? That's enough for today, Tusky. I decide to ignore the Tusky just this once. And then I wait some more in case there's a catch, but she gives me a trunk nudge and even smiles a little. Elephant smiles are all in their eyes, the way bird smiles are all in their songs. Tell them I said hello, says Aunt Akello. I will, I promise, and thank you so much, Aunt Akello, I say extra fast, and I'm already running toward the place where I feel safest, where the ones I love are waiting for me, and no one cares about my tusks. All right, that's it for our first recording, and join me again for a second recording, and we'll continue our story, The One and Only Ruby.